Hello. How is everybody doing today? So just going to be checking here, seeing that the video is working. Yeah, audio is working, video is working. Great. Okay, so this past week, I've been using Duolingo a little bit more, and I've managed to maintain a daily streak with the app. I think with the Russian tree, at some point I had most of the different lessons in there validated through kind of taking a placement test on there and seeing what things I already knew. But most of the time I had left that dormant. So let me just go back to on here on the if I can show this to the camera. So I mostly had these basic elements on the tree up to like a level 3. Most of that was through the kind of placement test, and then this is up to where the checkpoint is. There were still a few things here, another checkpoint, and then these last ones was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 10 items left for the tree to all be, or about 12 or so, for all of those to be accessible. But there still are a lot of things that I didn't necessarily do one by one if I had started from scratch with the language. So I just need to be a little bit more systematic on it to go through and review each one of the points. So with the levels on each one of those items, right now I'm using it to review review what I know in the language. So it isn't so much of learning lots of new things. It's still enriching the vocabulary, adding a few more words. But I do think the new words that I see underlined and I can click on and see what they mean, I'm usually discovering those through some of the translation phrases that I have to do, but mostly I have to click on the translation and the word is already there. I don't have to kind of necessarily guess so much what that word is. So they're usually introducing a new word through maybe an English to Russian sentence. So I see that, and then I'm kind of guessing which word that could be in Russian, and then they're doing it from the opposite, from Russian back to English, and then maybe I have to listen to it and try to write it down. So it's going like step by step for discovering those new words, but I don't really seem to find a list of those words that I supposedly know now. So I kind of have to go in and write those words down. Otherwise, I will probably forget them after that session is over. So one of the things I would like to have is maybe a downloadable list of these words that I could also plug into another app or build my own so I can review those words. Let me just go over here to Facebook, check to see if there's any messages. Okay, don't see any messages there. So for the using the app in terms of the daily habit, if I've been able to kind of turn that into a 1 week streak, I would say it's because if I have my phone like with me in the morning, I can use the app for about like 10-15 minutes when I'm waking up, and it's not very invasive for if there's noise around me or if I don't want to disturb somebody else. And in that case, I might use the microphone option when it's asking me to pronounce a phrase, or I might turn that off. There is the option there to kind of skip the speaking exercise. If there is a lot of background noise around me, I might turn off the listening exercise as well, and just focus on the reading and writing ones. I also, for the language, I do have the keyboard, the Cyrillic keyboard installed on my phone, so I can easily use the typing exercises as well, where I'm taking dictation of what I hear. In relating that to the speaking challenge with, we have to speak in that. So having an environment where there's not a lot of background noise, that can be a bit challenging sometimes to find 2 or 3 minutes where you can concentrate or not have a distraction or not have an interruption. So in my own practice, sometimes that like there's these dogs next door I find very annoying. Sometimes I don't know if somebody's going to, knock on the door now that my children are on vacation from school. So a few of those distractions might stop me from just speaking for a minute or two. Or I end up trying to wait until the end of the day when this dog shelter closes. But then as soon as that happens, the airlines, there's a change of a flight path. So then all of these flights go over my head in this neighborhood around 10 o'clock at night. So there's just constant noise in this neighborhood. And if I'm waiting for that to be a condition where I feel like, okay, I can just speak without getting distracted, then I would never do anything. I wouldn't do any of these coaching calls. I wouldn't teach if it was constantly waiting for noise to stop. But so be aware of some of the conditions that are around you when you're practicing. Try not to let those become like obstacles. Sometimes there's a quote that I think for authors, I forget who this was. Let me just find this. I forget if this was. Well, actually, this is also a biblical quote. If you wait for perfect conditions, you will never get anything done. Yeah, that's a great quote. And I think there was another author who had something similar. Yeah, that's a great quote for the motivation of, stop waiting for the perfect conditions or perfect environment. So it's not a question of just everything being perfect, because otherwise, we don't do anything. I'll write that. I'll paste that over here. Where is this quote here? Yeah. So with that in mind, I at least for my own speaking, I need to just kind of do it. Last week, I think one of the obstacles was the SpeakPipe recorder not necessarily on their server, having some glitches at the beginning of the week. So I started to switch over to, I don't know, recording myself on my camera, and then uploading that to my Google Drive, and then with a program I was doing for giving students feedback. One of those videos I uploaded to my Google Drive, and then that filled up my Google Drive, so I couldn't just kind of drop and upload as easily. So now I have to upload a video over to YouTube and wait for that to upload. So a few of those things, I mean, just the tech wise, it's more of an excuse, but thinking about the uploading should not be an excuse for not making the recording to begin with. So I do have a little bit of a tendency myself to kind of think 3 or 4 steps down the line, and let that become an excuse, and it shouldn't be. So I think with this kind of an app, the Duolingo, where like if speaking and listening if I'm surrounded by background noise or something, I can turn that off and keep going. But that's because that app has different options. There can be reading, there can be typing. So the reading and writing exercises, those can still happen with background noise, but with kind of a speaking, there isn't so much of a plan B. What could I do if I can't talk right now? So I guess at least it might be a good idea to include some kind of a plan B where, well, I could at least type what I'm thinking about related to this topic. I could look up a few new words. I could write down a few things, and then waiting for this few minutes to where I could record myself. So I'd like some way to that not be all lost. If it's not easy to immediately make that recording, at least have some options of how could I still go about taking advantage of the learning routine, so I don't just kind of give up immediately and say, okay, well, I'll wait until later in the day when there's no noise. So yeah, with that in mind, I think I will definitely keep, my notebook nearby, or the kind of notes that I could write down in my phone, or Google Notes, Google Doc, just to do it in steps and not necessarily an all or nothing. And I think what I've seen for a lot of participants is I skipped a day, and then one day becomes 2 days, and then that's a negative streak. And then it's much easier to just completely give up and think, okay, I will start next month. And that's a bit unfortunate for the objective of this program, of this challenge, is not to kind of encourage you to, feel bad about skipping a day or two, but it's mostly kind of developing a better attitude in terms of, okay, there aren't perfect days, but can you overcome the distractions, overcome the time management issues, and get into a habit? So right now, after 1 week of getting back into Duolingo and realizing that I can keep it manageable for about 10 minutes and then do something else, and then that I'm getting some encouragement, I'm getting some positive reinforcement of that habit, and I'm getting reminded that, okay, I'm 1 day away from a 3-day streak. I'm 2 days away from a 5-day streak. I'm now 1 day away from a 1 week streak, and then it starts indicating to me if I can build up a 2-week streak. So it does have these positive reminders, encouragements to try to make me feel good about taking action, even if it's small. And I think sometimes we need to add those into the challenge as a way to say, hey, we're now 10 days into July. If you haven't necessarily done all 10 days, it's still okay. Let's see if tomorrow you can get a 2-day streak or something like that. So if we can create an app, it would be nice to include some of those things from Duolingo or some of these other apps that are not invasive, but are there to help kind of give you that sense of accomplishment or sense of progress, and to try to encourage you to come back again and continue to use this. So I don't necessarily want to make it addictive the way that some other social media apps are designed to keep you scrolling and waiting for a notification or waiting for some kind of an alert or some change. But I would like to have it be something kind of in the background that is that when you want to use it, it will be a positive influence or a positive experience and not something annoying. Because I do see that some other programs have notifications as their default mode, and then they are asking for your email address, and then they're sending you constant reminders. And then some people just, I don't know, they want to turn all of that stuff off because they get too many, and then it's more of a burden. It's more of an annoyance than a invitation to join. And then sometimes people will feel kind of just bad about that experience, and not have a positive experience through that. So definitely want to avoid that as much as possible. Lately, also this past week, with my children no longer in school for the year that they finished last Friday, I feel that, well, here we're in the middle of this first week that they're off from school, and I feel like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm getting a bit lazy because I don't have to wake up at 6 a.m. to get them ready for school and get them awake and get them dressed and get their breakfast and get them out the door before, like, between 7 and 7:30. So I don't have that obligation of starting the day at 6. So if I've slept in Monday and Tuesday and then realize that, okay, when I had my classes starting around 9 or a little bit later, I just feel like the day has now been a bit more less productive. So, for example, today, making this call, I set it at 8 a.m. My time, because I wanted to get the day started and not sleep in with having a lazy start to the morning, because then it just feels less productive, and like I haven't gotten as many things as I wanted to get done on my schedule for the day. So those are a few things on time management, and also for students who I've been helping for the TOEFL exam. A lot of them are mentioning that they have to deal with time management within the exam itself, and then also preparing for the exam like a week before or 2 weeks before, and trying to come up with an effective strategy or plan. And I had a student recently who got a rather high score. The total possible on the exam is 120, and he needed to get 100 out of 120, and his target was like 110. And with a set of 4 classes together, going through some of the main advice that I give and seeing his progress, he managed to get a 114 on the exam just about 10 days ago. So I've been sharing some of those results and then asking what other students need help with if they want to know what we did in those lessons. So time management and knowing how to be effective with little time is it is something that a lot of people struggle with the language learning experience, and also prioritizing within limited time, because even for myself as a teacher and wanting to prepare resources, I might, if I don't set a timer, if I don't have a reminder that I've been doing a task for a half hour, an hour, I have a tendency to underestimate how long a task might take, and I have a tendency to want to add more material than necessary. So those two combined, and having maybe like no notion of time kind of disappearing where I get absorbed into a task, is not a very good accommodation for that productivity. So with time management, I think it is definitely an important skill to not like underestimate how much time you need for a certain skill, and maybe having some of these like Pomodoro 20-minute, 30-minute chunks of time and reminders. In the house, we have recently acquired an Echo Dot, the Amazon, the Alexa. So I've mostly started to use it for adding music to a playlist, and I can listen to that in the background, or asking for like, hey, what time it is? What time is it? If I'm not in front of my phone or the computer, and encouraging the kids to speak English with it. But I think I need to set up with maybe with the app to have it sending me some of these like reminders of it's been a half hour or it's been an hour, just to have those, okay, the next task to do, especially if now with the kids on vacation, then that there's that sense of time is just, I remember my teaching schedule, but then I'm also getting into a few programs where I'm giving people feedback on their assignments and on their homework without necessarily having a speaking session live on Skype or Zoom. So in that case, where it's mostly based on the feedback and not necessarily that schedule, then again, this time kind of disappears a little bit if I'm not keeping track of each one of those activities so much. So time management is definitely a high priority for me, because I might overestimate how much I can get done in the day, and then maybe under deliver if I let some of these tasks start and not get to a finishing point. And for the language learning, for example, with this Duolingo app that I've been testing more, I think the bite-sized format of just let's do 15 questions and let's do that in like 10 minutes. I think that helps keep it manageable. So I think for the speaking questions, having a time limit of like, okay, 5 minutes is a good limit there, both for the speaker and for the listener. And approaching it in a bite-sized way of, okay, let's look up maybe 10 new words that could be related to that topic, if it's too hard, I can talk about one of the questions and not necessarily get overwhelmed by a topic that is too difficult or that I don't have enough vocabulary to discuss it. So so keep those in mind with approaching the daily tasks and giving yourself a specific target when you're working on them. Okay. Well, here for today, this has been about a half hour or so, and I don't see too many questions or comments here. This was a bit at last minute notice, looking at the schedule for this week and when would be a time that I could go live. But try out one of these apps like the Duolingo, and it's also a little bit of trying the kind of time management and trying to get yourself into a habit. If you have skipped a day or two, don't let that be the end of the world. Try to keep going. Try not to give up entirely. Try doing something small today, or planning your schedule for the next day so that it's not just a lost month, even though the month is just barely getting started. So this quote again of, if you wait for perfect conditions, you'll never get anything done. Let's try to avoid that. Let's try to be okay with imperfect conditions. Great. So I will wrap it up here for today. This will be a little bit of a shorter recording, and hope to see you next week. And best of luck with your schedules. And if you have any suggestions on time management apps or training or articles related to that, I'll be happy to read those and share those. And thank you for watching, and have a great day.